This works. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to work with JSON with Swift and Xcode. Today we will be using an open source project actually called Swifty JSON. It helps things with JSON in Swift a lot, so we're going to be using that, and I'm going to show you how to set that up inside of your own project. This is actually going to be a local file that we will be working with, although it is the same exact concept for using URLs as local files. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so first thing we need to do is actually head into Xcode and create a new Xcode project. This will be a single view application. Click next, and our product name I am just going to call mine JSON. Language will be set to Swift, and our devices will be set to iPhone, although actually I'm just going to change this to universal. Click next. I'm just going to head over to my desktop and I'm going to create that right there. This is going to make it easier to put it on the desktop or basically somewhere that you know, because we're going to be using terminal later on to find our file. So now I'm just going to make this a bit bigger for you guys. And now I'm going to head over to Safari or whatever web browser you use, and I'm just going to search Swifty JSON, like so. I will leave a link in the description down below if you want to find it for yourself. It will be a GitHub page, so be sure you go to that one. And now Swifty JSON, you can read all about it if you want, but really all we want to care about is the operation of it, like how to install it and other things like that. So right up here it says integration. So this is going to let us know you can use CocoaPods, you could just take the file itself, or you can use Carthage or whatever you want. I prefer CocoaPods, so I'm going to go right over to my project file again, and I'm going to go File, New, File, and this is going to be an empty file. Click next. And the name of this is actually very important. If you're following this exact way of doing, you can install CocoaPods other ways, but I think this is the simplest way for me. So the file name is going to be pod file, spelt exactly like that, P-O-D-F-I-L-E, create. And now as you can see, we have this pod file right in here. Now if we head back over to our integration in Swifty JSON, we're going to take everything that you see right here and just copy and paste that right inside of there. Now we want to change a few things. So for target right here, you can see that it says my app. We don't want that to be there. We're just going to delete that, and we're going to replace that with capital JSON, or basically our project name. So this is going to target our project and create a pod inside of our project so we can use their frameworks from Swifty JSON. And now let's head back to our main scene and go over to terminal, and I'm going to type in ls to see where I am. I'm going to go cd desktop ls and then cd JSON, and then ls to see where we are. Now as you can see, inside of this JSON folder, if I were to open this up just normally, you'll see that this is the pod file right in here. So now we need to go in here and just say pod install. And then as you will see, there's going to be a lot of background processes that are bringing everything in from Swifty JSON and implementing that into our project now. Alright, so now that is done, but as you can see it says, please close any current Xcode sessions and use json.xc workspace from this project from now on. So I'm going to head back over to my project and just shrink it down and X out of it. And now if I were to go into my project folder again for JSON, you will see that a json.xc workspace has been created. And now for working with this project, we need to actually open up from json.xc workspace from now on. So now let's double click on that and make it a bit bigger. And right inside of this JSON, you will see that this is our original project. A few things have been added, such as this pods right here. This is going to allow us to control the pods that were created alongside our project. So now we're going to be able to use Swifty JSON inside of our project. Now, in the instructions, it says to go over to your viewcontroller.swift, and we're going to import Swifty JSON. Now as you can see, it gives me an error. Now we need to head back over to their JSON main project right here. We're going to click on that and head over to our build phases. And right in here, we're going to say link binary with libraries. We're going to hit this plus button right in here, and we're going to add in our workspace this Swifty JSON.framework. So now add that. And now if we head back over to our viewcontroller.swift, it still says you're having a problem, but let's build and run this real quick. So after I added this import Swifty JSON, it actually did not work. And so the thing that I did to fix it was you need to go through all these files and just open them all up and just make it realize that these files are here. And I think that's what fixes things. So if you can go into the swiftyjson.swift, hit Command S, just try anything so it recognizes that those files are there, then it'll work properly. That's how I fixed it. It was a bit confusing, but hopefully it works for you guys. And the next thing we need to do is actually create our JSON file itself. So I'm going to say File, New, File. and this is going to be an empty, so click next. And I'm going to save this as my JSON file.json. Create, and this will be the file that I store all my JSON. So for this example, I'm just going to create a very simple JSON project. I'm going to have basically a person, and then that person will have a name and an age. So here we are. I'm just going to say open bracket, enter, and then that should give you a close bracket. And then after that, you need to say open quotation mark, close quotation mark, people. And then after that, you go colon, open curly bracket, enter, close curly bracket after that. And then after this, we need to say open quotation mark, close quotation mark, and this is going to be our person 1. And this person 1 is going to have accumulation of our name and age. So now inside of these curly brackets, you're going to say open quotation mark, close quotation mark, and inside of this, I'm just going to put name and then colon, and this is going to be Jared. And then after that, I'm going to add open quotation mark, close quotation mark, and this is going to just be age. And then colon 17. Now we can basically just copy and paste this whole line of code a few times, and there we have person 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now before we continue on, right after all of these curly brackets right here, this is a group you can see, we need to add a comma after all of these curly brackets. So just add a comma after all of that, and in a sense we're basically creating an array of people. So now to grab this array and actually do things with it, we need to head back over to our viewcontroller.swift, and inside of this I'm just going to create a new function. So this will be our function for parse JSON. So we're going to parse the JSON in here, and we're going to apply it to our app. Now after that, you say open curly bracket, enter, close curly bracket, and the first thing we need to do is actually grab the file that we just created, and we're going to apply it to a path. So we're going to say let path colon string, so we're basically creating a path that's going to be turned into a string, equal ns_bundle.main_bundle.path for resource, and the resource is going to be this one right here that says name and of type. So the name of this is going to be open quotation mark, close quotation mark, and inside of that we're going to have our JSON file of the type open quotation mark, close quotation mark, JSON. So in a sense, we're grabbing that JSON file right over here and we're applying this to a string. Right now it's giving us this error because this ns_bundle.main_bundle, it doesn't think that it's going to be a string, so we need to say as a string. So we're going to cast it as a string. And then right after that, you're going to add an exclamation mark. Then after that, we need to grab the JSON data and we're going to apply it to some NS data. So we're going to say let JSON data equal, and this is going to be our NS data, open parentheses, and this is going to be contents of file, although if you were using a URL, you want to do it from the contents of URL. This is if you're doing it JSON from the web, which I assume most of you are wanting to do, but it's essentially the same thing. So now we're going to say contents of file, and inside of this we're just going to say path. So we're basically grabbing the contents of this path that we have right here and we're applying it to some NS data. Then after that we need to say as NS data. So we're casting it as NS data. And finally we're actually going to take the JSON and make it more readable. So we're going to say let readable JSON equal, and this is going to be capital JSON. Now this comes from our Swifty JSON. So this is basically what we're going to do. We're going to grab this file that we created right here and we're going to convert it or do whatever Swifty JSON does and apply it to something that's readable for us. This is going to make it easily parsable. So inside of this JSON we're going to type in data, and then it should automatically have all this filled out for you where it says data, NS JSON reading options, and NS error pointer. So tab all of that in, and the data we're going to say JSON data right there. We're basically applying this data that we created right here into the data that this JSON is going to convert into the NS JSON reading options dot mutable containers. So we're putting it into containers that we can easily parse and actually apply to our application. If there's an error, what do you want to do? I don't want anything to happen right now, so I'm going to type in NIL for nil. So now if we just wanted to grab our person 1 name, this is what we'd have to do. You have to say var name is equal to, and this is going to be equal to our readable readable JSON, and then we're going to say open square bracket, close square bracket, and inside of this we're going to say open quotation mark, close quotation mark, people. So we're basically going down some certain levels. And in fact, I'm just going to show you exactly what's going on right now. I'm going to type in nslog, like so, open parentheses, close parentheses, and inside of this, I'm going to say open quotation mark, close quotation mark, slash, open parentheses, close parentheses, and we're going to type in the name. Basically this variable that we just created right there. And actually before we build and run this, we need to head over to our view did load. And when the view loads, we want to call this function that we just created. So just type in parse JSON. And now let's build and run. Now I'm actually getting this error that says null right here. That basically means there's nothing in this JSON file that it's reading, which is absolutely incorrect. So we need to head over to our JSON file.json. And I just realized that I did a few things wrong. So right in here, we need to have the name and Jared, but we need commas between everything. Now, as you can see, if this JSON file has any errors whatsoever, it doesn't let you know that there's errors, but if it has any errors whatsoever, it's not going to work properly. So now if we were actually to build and run this, we will actually get all of the things we need. So there you have it. If I were to make this a bit bigger, you can see that it's basically printing our whole JSON file for us. Everything that's inside of this people. Now, for some weird reason, the person 2, person 3, person 1, and person 4 are all out of order, but that doesn't really matter right now. So let's head back over to our viewcontroller.swift, and now let's just grab the name itself. So I'm going to go to people, and then right after this, you can either go comma, open quotation mark, close quotation mark, person 1, and then comma, open quotation mark, close quotation mark, name. Build and run that. And as you will see, it'll print out Jared. That is the name of person 1. Now this is one method of actually parsing the JSON. You can do it with commas, or you can actually just add more square brackets. So you can have people, and then you can have open square bracket, close square bracket. Then you can have person 1, and then you can also have age or name. It doesn't really matter. But as I'm just trying to show you that there's different ways of parsing the JSON. I prefer this way just because it's a bit more clean, but you might prefer the other way. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to apply this JSON data and put it inside of a table. So let's head over to our main.storyboard, and I'm actually just going to delete the view controller that's on there right now and click and drag a table view controller onto our scene. Now we need to head back over to our viewcontroller.swift, and inside of this, we're going to change the superclass of our view controller. Hi! And we're just going to change the superclass of this to a UI table view controller. Now let's head back over to our main.storyboard, click on our table view controller, head over to our identity inspector, and inside of this, I'm going to change the class name to our view controller. Basically, anything that I put inside of this view controller right here is going to edit this scene now. So now next thing we need to do is actually take some of the things that are inside of our JSON file and apply that to our table view. So in order for us to do this, I'm just going to go down here and say table view, and it's going to come up with a bunch of options. This one will be number of rows in section, and we'll deal with that in just a minute. And then again, table view, and this is going to be cell for row at index path. So we're going to create cells, and we're going to apply either the age or the name to that cell. So now we can go up here to our number of rows in section, and first thing we need to do is actually create a variable right up here. So say var, and this is going to be number of rows, and this is going to be equal to 0 right now. And if we head over to our parse JSON function, we can go down here, and we're just going to apply the number of rows, and we're going to set this equal to our readable JSON. Then this will be open quotation mark, close quotation mark, and this will be people. And then right after that square bracket, we're going to say dot count. So we're counting how many things are inside of this people function. So now we're going to go down here into our number of rows in section, and we're going to say return number of rows, like so. So that is going to return the amount of people that we have as rows. Now down here, we're going to take those rows and we're going to apply either the name or the age to that row. So down here, we're going to create a cell. So just say var cell will be equal to our table view.deck reusable cell with identifier, and this identifier will be open quotation mark, close quotation mark, capital CELL, although you can do whatever you want with that. For index path, and I'm just going to type in index path, which is created right up here if you want to know. And then go down here and we're going to say return cell, because it's expecting a UI table view cell to be there. But right now it's actually giving us an error saying we need to cast our cell as a UI table view cell. So right after this, we need to say as a UI table view cell, and just add an exclamation point right after the as. Now before we actually start adding elements into the cell, we need to go up here and we need to put the names into an array. So we're going to say var names array will be equal to, and this is going to be an open square bracket, close square bracket, and string right inside of that. And then right outside of that, we're going to say open parentheses, close parentheses. And now inside of this parse JSON, I'm going to say for I in 0 ... and this is going to be our number of rows. So for all of the rows that are inside of our table view, we're going to do things. So right after this number of rows, we're going to say open curly bracket, enter close curly bracket, and then inside of this, we're going to append our names into the names array that we created. So just say names array.append, and we're going to add a new element, which will be our name. Now in order to add every one of these names, we actually need to do something a little bit special. So we're going to go up here and we're going to say var person is equal to open quotation mark, close quotation mark, person, and then right outside of that we're going to say person plus equals, and this is going to be open quotation mark, close quotation mark, slash open parentheses, close parentheses, I. So we're basically going person 1, 2, 3, 4 for every person that's inside of the people, and we're going to apply the name that for every person and put that inside of our names array. Now outside of this, we're going to say var name will be equal to, and this is going to be equal to our readable, and we can actually take that what's right up here and just apply that right inside of there, and that's going to be people person 1, and we're just going to switch this out for name. And now inside of this names array.append, we're going to type in name. And right now this is giving me an error because it doesn't know that we're adding a string. So right outside of the var name, we're going to just cast this as a string and add an exclamation point right after the as. And right now it's giving us this error because it doesn't know that this is a string right here. So right after this, we actually need to say dot string, and then we need to cast this as a string, like so. And now we're appending this into our names array, and that should all work properly. Now if you want to do the same with our age, we can do that. We just need to say var age will be equal to, and this is going to be an array of strings. Or you can make it of integers, but I'm going to stick with strings right now. And it actually seems like it doesn't want that as, the exclamation point right after the as, but it wants it right after the string on name. Now right after this name, we're actually going to create another variable, and this will be our age. And we're going to make this equal to, and we can basically just copy and paste all of this and paste that right into our age. And then we're just going to switch out this text right here to age. So now it's grabbing the age from all of these people. And I also forgot to mention that this should not be open quotation mark, close quotation mark, person 1. This should just be person. Basically, we're adding this variable in here to in here. And this is going to allow us to grab every person's name and age and apply that to an array. I made things a bit confusing. We need to go up here, and I'm going to say var age array. And now let's go down here, and we're going to say age array dot append, and we're going to append our age that we just created right up here. And we're basically just adding all of the ages and all of the names into arrays. And now if we head over to our table view, we can apply these names or ages to our cell. So we can say if names array dot count is not equal to 0, basically there's something inside of this array that we can grab from, then we want to build our cells. So we can say inside of this cell dot text label will be equal to, and this is going to be our names array, open square bracket, close square bracket, and this is going to be our index path dot row. So we're basically grabbing all of the names for every row that we are in our table view controller. And this should be cell dot text label dot text. And now let's head back over to our main.storyboard, and we can click on our table view right here, and let's head over to our attributes inspector, and right down here you will see is the initial view controller, and we just want to click that. And now if we were to build and run this, now this is finding a nil value at the row of 0. So we actually need to go up here, and we're just going to say 1 ... number of rows. And actually before we build and run this again, we need to head over to our main.storyboard, click on our cell that we have right here, and inside of our attributes inspector we need to go to the identifier and just type in capital CELL like we did in our viewController.swift. So now we're going to apply the cell.text label to the cells now. So now if we were to build and run this, as you can see we have Jared, 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 and Jared. Now if we head over to our JSON file.json, you will see that is 4 people, and that is the perfect number that we want. And you can actually see how this works if I just add Jared, 2, 3, and 4. Build and run this again, and now you have these changed. And yeah, that's basically it for using JSON files inside of Swift. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more tutorials like this from me in the future, be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you again, and I will see you in the next one.